Now we begin the third class of the stories of great Zen Masters. Let us begin with a few minutes of meditation. Let us practice whole body awareness. We sit up straight. The whole body is relaxed. And our mind is focused on being aware of whatever sensations that come from different parts of the body. Our mind should be sharp. Fully awake. Knowing. Always in the present. And quiet. We tune in to the sensations of the body. Using the knowing mind. Not the discriminating mind. The knowing mind simply knows. It does not judge. It does not have preferences. It does not cling to any sensation or feelings. And therefore it is always still, quiet, like somebody who listens but never talks. That is the knowing mind. And we use this to listen to the body. That is the whole body awareness meditation. Okay, so through the meditation, we get in touch with the part of our mind that is always quiet. It is quiet because it doesn't talk. It doesn't grab onto things. It doesn't make judgments. It simply perceives. It sees, it listens, it feels, it knows. But it is still. It never goes anywhere. But it is everywhere. And at all times. That is our key to the ordinary mind. So let us review. Last week we introduced the teaching on the ordinary mind by Master Mazu. A very important idea. So, the ordinary mind is the way. The way does not require cultivation, only the avoidance of defilement. Defilement is something that contaminates. In this case, contaminates our mind, contaminates our life. So what is defilement? Thoughts entangled in birth and death. So worrying about birth and death. Any contrived striving or attachment, seeking something, wanting to hold on to something. These are defilements. If you wish to directly realize the way, and that is the goal of the Zen school, to directly realize the way. The ordinary mind is the way. What is the ordinary mind? It is free from contrivance, judgments of right and wrong, grasping, wanting something, so we grasp, rejecting, I don't want this, go away. It is free from extremes of permanence and annihilation, and distinctions of the ordinary and the sacred. So, the ordinary and the sacred. It also includes who is higher, who is lower, who is better, who is worse, who is ordinary, who is extraordinary. These are judgments that we have on people, right? Who is a master, who is a slave? These are related to these dualistic judgments that our conscious mind makes. So this ordinary mind concept is something that sounds simple, but actually really profound. And it is something that we will go back to over and over again in our studying or learning about Zen, the Zen way. Now, the ordinary mind is a Chinese teaching. The original is 平常心是道. Ordinary mind. 平常心. So the word for ordinary here, 平常, is a very common phrase. It means everyday, the usual, the norm, the common, everywhere. Nothing extraordinary, nothing special. However, the phrase is comprised of two characters, two Chinese characters, 平 and 常. 常 means always, or frequent, or usual. 常. 平 means even. So nothing very high, nothing low, but even, level. 平, 常. So some masters have explained the ordinary mind as the mind that is always equal, that is ever present. If you think about it, our mental state, our states of mind are always changing, right? Stimulated by the external environment, whatever people say, whatever happens, our mind goes up and down, up and down. So that's not the 平常心, the ordinary mind, the mind that is even, that is always level, always calm and quiet, always still. Okay, so we'll gradually become familiar with the idea of the really extraordinary ordinary mind. And it's called the ordinary mind because it's something that should be ordinary, should be everyday, should be the norm. It should be the norm for the awakened one, for the enlightened people. This is the usual. This is the ordinary. This is the way it should be. Suchness, thusness, the way it should be. But unfortunately, our mind is defiled by all these ignorance and delusion and attachment. So we are not usually in the state of the ordinary mind. Okay? Now we're going to start today's class with the second topic. So Shifu organized these Zen stories into different topics. The first topic that we spent 2 weeks on is called Daily Zen, Zen in Daily Life. The second topic is direct pointing to the mind, and that is another key theme in the Zen schools, direct pointing to the mind, direct realization of the truth. But the realization of the truth means understanding the mind, our ordinary mind. Okay, so let's look at the first story. There's a Chan master. His name was Li Zong. He presided over a monastery in Zihu. So he's known as Master Zihu Li Zong. Okay, so we have learned that the Chinese Chan masters usually have two names, 4 characters, 4 syllables together. The first 2 syllables, the first name is usually the monastery that he stayed at, or the mountain that he stayed in. So that's the place, and the second name is actually his Dharma name. And sometimes we call the Chan master by the first name, and sometimes we call it by the second name. There doesn't seem to be a rule. Okay, so Master Zihu, he one night he went in front of the monks' quarters. So there's a hall where the monks stay, and their own rooms. So he went outside and started shouting, "There's a thief!" So of course that created quite a stir up. Right? Everybody was surprised, was shocked, and people start looking for what's going on. What's really going on? Is there really a thief? And that will be something very important if there is actually a thief. So the master, the abbot of the monastery said, "There's a thief!" So people start rushing out, and then one of the first monk that came out of the monk's hall, was grabbed by the master. The master just grabbed him, and he said, "Hey monk, I caught the thief." Now the monk was very confused. He said, "Master, it's not me. I'm not a thief." The master said, "It is you. You just refuse to own up to it." End of story. Okay, so what is going on here? This became a famous Zen story. Now, was there a real thief in the sense that somebody from outside came to the monastery, tried to steal something valuable? No, there wasn't. So it was a drama created by the master. All right? So this is a good example of the kind of tactics, some weird, you may say bizarre, tactics that Chan masters have come up with. Now, before the Zen school, before the Chan school became popular in China, the teaching, the Dharma teaching, from master to disciples to students, was always very proper. Also the master sit on a high seat, and the students will either stand or sit, and be very respectful, sitting very properly, the way it should be, and the teaching, like a solemn lecture. But then the Chan master, they come up and change all of that. A lot of the teaching doesn't always take place in the Dharma, in the lecture hall, right? It could take place in any time, anywhere. And then it could take place in many different strange forms. So this is one of them. Now, why would a master do that? And what does he mean by the thief? He just grabbed to a random monk that came out. He said, "You are the thief." Of course, the monk thinks he's innocent. He said, "No, master, I'm not a thief. I didn't steal anything." But the master says, "It is you. You just don't want to admit it." Okay, so what is going on here, everyone? Now remember, in all these Zen stories, it's always about the truth, right? Realizing the truth. And realize the truth means it has something to do with your mind. Something has to do with understanding yourself. Right? So that's the hint. It's about understanding yourself. So the master said, you are the thief. You just don't want to admit it. You don't want to face it. You don't want to face the fact that you have been stealing what? He's not talking about stealing something from the monastery, stealing property, stealing valuable objects. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about a spiritual practice. He's talking about awakening, right? So what do you think the thief does? Stealing what?
Shifu, is it referring to our six senses that we always use our six senses to look at the six objects
Okay.
and we become entangled by what we see or hear from the six senses
Okay.
and develop attachments instead of seeing things directly without any discriminations.
Okay, that is a very good starting point. We use our six senses, so eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the thinking mind, right? We perceive the sights and sound, the external stimulations, and then what happens? They overtake us, right? We get overtaken by these stimulants, this information. Yeah, we hear somebody say something, and then that occupies our mind. And then, depending on what they say, maybe they praise us, maybe they degrade us, maybe they misunderstand us, and we get emotional. Yeah, we get upset, or we get really happy, and we want more, or we reject. So grasp or reject. Yeah, so that's our typical reaction. And when that happens, our mind is no longer quiet and still. Our mind is no longer calm. We lose that calm. We lose that peace of mind. Yeah, so that's what we call the defilement. And this happens every day. Yeah, and many times throughout the day, doesn't it? So when things are very likable, when the sights and sounds are likable, we want more. And when they are not likable, when they are unpleasant, then we want to push them away. I don't want this. Don't give me that, right? So the result is we get trapped in this up and down emotion, often emotional state of mind, and we are driven by the environment, driven by other people. Our mind is not our own anymore, right? We are trapped by what happens to us. They seem to have control over us. That is an example of what is called your life being stolen by others. Your time, yourself was stolen by others. By what? By other people? No, actually, by your own judgment, right? By your own grasping and rejecting. When you grasp something, people have control over you. When you really want something, they have control over you. When you really hate something, you really dislike something, they also have control over you. So you become a slave. You lose yourself. That is what the Master Zihu, is trying to point out. But let's not blame other people, because we are the one that decided to hold on to something or reject something, kick out something, right? So we gave up this control. We gave up the ownership of our own life. So who is the thief here? Does that make sense? Who is the thief? So he said, you are the thief. You just refuse to admit it. You just don't see it. So at least let us see what kind of thinking, what kind of habits, what kind of preferences in our mind, in our conscious mind that we have, that's actually stealing from my own life, stealing from the peace, serenity, or clarity, right? When we get emotional, we lose clarity of the mind. We lose our wisdom. We lose our rational judgment. Yeah? So, in this way, the Master very dramatically pointed out who is stealing our own life. Okay? All right, so this is something we should think about. We should contemplate on. In what ways have I or my own judgment or my own habit has been stealing from the quality, stealing away the quality of my life? Why do we get so stressed? Why do we worry so much? Why do I feel life is a burden? Who has been doing that to me? Yeah? And are we willing to admit that the culprit, the thief, is actually another part of my mind, the judging mind, the discriminating mind? Okay? All right, let us look at another story. By the way, a little bit, I haven't said anything about who this master is. This master is a disciple of Nanquan Puyuan. Nanquan Puyuan, I don't think we introduced him yet. He's also a very famous master. Now, Nanquan Puyuan was a disciple of Master Mazu. So Master Mazu was a towering figure in the Chinese Chan world. He came out with the teaching of the ordinary mind, but he also came out with another famous teaching, which is in the next story we'll look at. Okay, so Mazu had a disciple who enlightened a disciple called Nanquan, and he in turn enlightened this master Zihu. All right, so here is the story from another Zen master. His name is Da Zhu Huihai. Da Zhu, Da means big, Zhu is pearl. Hui, Hui means wisdom, Hai is ocean, ocean of wisdom. So his Dharma name is an ocean of wisdom. Very auspicious name. So the story is called My Own Treasure. 自家宝藏, my own treasure. So the Chen monk Huihai came to visit Master Mazu. So Da Zhu Huihai, he would be enlightened under Master Mazu. Now, how did he get enlightened? Here's the story. Master Mazu asked, "Where do you come from?" Huihai replied, "I came from the Great Cloud Monastery in Yuezhou." So it's an ordinary reply. Now, hint, when a Chan master asks you, "Where do you come from?" the question is usually not that straightforward. Okay? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Now, the unsuspecting mind will reply, "Oh, I come from this place. I was born in this place. I live in this monastery. This is where I come from." So, Huihai was, just replying the ordinary way. Okay, so what do you seek here? What do you want? Why do you come to see me? What do you want to learn from me? What do you seek here? Huihai said, "I came to seek the Buddha Dharma. I come to learn. I come to learn Buddhism. I come to learn from you." Mazu said, here is another style, a well-known style of Chinese Chan masters. Mazu said, "I have not a single thing here. What Buddha Dharma are you seeking? Why forsake your own treasure and wander homeless? I have nothing to teach you. But you are ignoring your own treasure, and you go out here, there, everywhere, seeking your teacher, wandering homeless." Huihai was confused. He said, "What is my own treasure?" And Mazu said, "The one asking me right now is your treasure. Everything is complete within. Nothing is lacking. Use it freely. Why seek outside?" Let's go through this again. What is my own treasure? The one asking me right now is your own treasure. But what do you mean? The one asking me right now isn't that Huihai? But what is Huihai? Who is Huihai? Who are you? So, Master Mazu was not referring to this person, this body, this person named Huihai. He was referring to something else, right? That which can ask me this question: what is my own treasure? That which can ask this question, or ask any question. That which can ask a question, that which can wonder, that which wants to learn, that is the treasure itself. Everything is complete within, nothing is lacking. Now, how often do we feel I'm lacking important things in my life? I don't have a house, I don't have a fancy car, I don't have a good job, I don't have a happy marriage, I don't have money, I don't have beauty, I don't have talent, we often feel inadequate, right? We often feel, I don't have this, I need that, I need this. So we don't feel complete. We feel we are lacking many things. But Chan Master Mazu said, we don't lack anything. Everything is complete within us, within ourselves. Use it freely. Use it freely. Why seek outside? Okay? Now, obviously, Master Mazu was talking about the mind again, right? But what mind? I mean, everybody has a mind. You've been using your mind all your life. How come you don't feel complete? How come do you feel your mind is a treasure? It's a great treasure. It is the greatest treasure. Do you feel that way? Probably not. I mean, you know your mind is important, and you wouldn't give up your mind for anything, right? But then do you feel that it is a great treasure? And why does Master Mazu say everything is complete? Why does he say that we don't lack anything? Now that's something we'll gradually, hopefully, learn in the future stories. But with that brief exchange, the Chan monk Hui Hai was enlightened. He was enlightened. Are we enlightened? Okay, if not, we'll have to look at more stories, right? Right, so just some information. After Hui Hai was enlightened, he only stayed with his master Mazu briefly, and soon enough he went away to practice in a mountain by himself. And over time, his wisdom became known to others, and he had many disciples. And through teaching these disciples, he recorded some of the exchange himself. So he wrote a book, the Hui Hai, Dazhu Hui Hai. He wrote the text on some essential Chan teachings. And the text, the book, eventually came back to his master, Master Mazu here. When Mazu read it, now, this is kind of like a final exam, right? Your disciple who graduated, he went away, he wrote a book, and so the book came back one day. Somebody brought the book to Master Mazu. Mazu read his book. He said, there's a great pearl shining in that mountain. He was staying at the mountain. There's a great pearl shining, radiating from that mountain. And that is why he was known as Dazhu, the great pearl. The great pearl. I'm not sure that his monastery is called the Great Pearl. It might be. So in this case, the Dazhu, his first name, actually came from, the first part of his name actually came from Master Mazu, calling him a great pearl. Okay? And the book itself is a great Chan book. It's a great Zen book. I will have to see whether it's translated into English, but it's filled with beautiful teaching. Okay, so here is another theme, another major theme that will run through many Zen stories, which is your own treasure, the treasure in your own home, your own house, that most people ignored. Now, this is not a new idea created by Mazu. This idea was in the Buddha Sutras. Buddha, actually at some point taught this idea, but it was made famous or well known by the Chinese school. So we're going to encounter several stories related to this teaching about your own treasure. So let us reflect on this a little bit. Now, we know by now our mind can do wonderful things. It can be very compassionate, it can learn profound knowledge, it can help people, but then our mind can also mess things up, right? We can get stressed, we can get worried, we can have fear, we can get emotional, we can go crazy. So we want to understand our mind. And from the first class, Shifu has been talking about understanding our mind from a particular perspective, which is the knowing part and the consciousness part. The knowing part and the judging, comparing, analyzing, discriminating part of our mind. Yeah? And the key is to get in touch, become acquainted with the knowing part of our mind, which is usually hiding behind the scene. Yeah, the conscious part of our mind is take the front stage. That's the one that make you talk, make you act, make you do things, make you say things, and make you decide things. That's the one that seems to gear your life, direct your life through your journey, right, in this world. But then, most of us have ignored the importance of getting in touch with the knowing part of your mind, the quiet part, the part that first perceives, the part of your mind that simply listens, but never talks. Yeah? So that's the key to understand all of this teaching, including this great treasure. Now we know that the consciousness part of our mind is very powerful. It's very capable. However, some people use it well. When you use the judging part of your mind, discerning part of your mind really well, you can become a doctor, you can become an expert in something, you can become very skillful in something, you can become famous, you can become wealthy. If you haven't learned how to make the right judgment, if you haven't learned how to discern well, then you can feel like, oh, everything is an obstacle, and life is so tough, and life is not kind to me, and so on. So you can get depressed. Yeah. But besides that, there's something that we should get to know, which is the quiet mind, the knowing mind, how, even though very quiet and never talk, how powerful it is. What kind of power lies inside? What kind of power lies inside that part of our mind? And if you remember, let's go back to the teaching of the ordinary mind. The ordinary mind says, the ordinary mind is the way. The way does not require cultivation. What that means is you don't need to. For example, the conscious mind, the discerning mind, we need to train the mind, we need to memorize things, we need to train it to be logical and solve problems and acquire skills. That's all in part. That's all in the part of the consciousness part of our mind, right? And some people seem to learn fast. Some people seem to learn slow. Some people have higher IQ. Some people have a lower IQ, and so on. People are very different when we talk about the conscious mind. People are not equal there. And in order to become good, at something, you need to train, you need to cultivate, you need to practice, you need to be diligent to train your conscious part of your mind to do something really well, right? Either to be a medical doctor, to be a scientist, to be an engineer, to be a nurse, to be a carpenter, to be a pianist. You need to use the conscious mind. You got to train it and train it and train it and train it. It's cultivate. But, and when you do that, then you become more powerful. Yeah, you become an expert. You become more powerful. But then there's that knowing part of our mind, which is quite different. It is very powerful too, but most people don't understand its power. And that power doesn't come from cultivation. It doesn't come from training. It doesn't come from practice. It comes from avoiding the defilements, avoiding the contaminants that cover it up, and our judgmental mind, our biased mind. That is what cover up the power of the knowing part of our mind. And so most of us don't fully realize the great, extraordinary power of the knowing mind. Yeah? So, if you understand this, then the own treasure will begin to make sense for you. If you have worked really hard in your life to become good at something, then you already know the power of the conscious mind. But that doesn't mean, even if you are a doctor, an expert, a Nobel Prize winner, that doesn't mean you know the power of that quiet mind, that knowing mind. Now, if you can tap into that, as well as using the conscious mind, imagine what you can do. Imagine what life can be. Yeah? So, what is my own treasure? Let us contemplate on this. Let's contemplate on this. Do you feel that your mind is a treasure? If you do, then that will boost your confidence, because a treasure means something valuable, something you can take out and use in many ways, right? If you have a lot of money, you can use it in many different ways and make things happen. Now, if you have this treasure inside already, wouldn't it be nice to be able to take out that treasure and use it in my life? Okay, so now that's something we need to learn. So now Hui Hai is he's an extraordinary disciple. From the simple teaching, oh, you have your own treasure within, he immediately was awakened. But for most of us, we probably need more hint, need more teaching. Let us look at a couple other ones quickly. Now, this is from the fifth patriarch, Shen Xiu. He has a teaching which I call abandoning your father. He said in one of his lectures, he said, all Buddha Dharma, all the Buddhist teaching, inherently exists within your own mind. Seeking outside of your mind is akin to abandoning your father and running away. So this is the same thing, right? Do you realize? Now, if you look at the Buddha Dharma, there's like hundreds and hundreds of books, thousands of scriptures that the Buddha have taught. There's a lot of Dharma, and some of it is very complicated, very profound. And then when you study the Dharma, sometimes I wonder, well, how can anybody come up with something so amazing, so profound, so wise? Now it's easy to think, oh, Buddha, he's just, just an extraordinary genius. Nobody is like him. And there are people like that. But here, that's not what we're saying. What this enlightened master is saying is that, no, the Buddha Dharma, all the teaching is inherently within your own mind. In other words, you can discover it yourself. So seeking outside of your mind is like abandoning your father and running away and become a beggar. You see, your father is a rich person. He can help you live in a very comfortable way, but then you run away from your father and then you have a real tough life out there. And that's what it's like for us, for mundane people like us. Life is tough. We face so many challenges. We don't feel that we have enough wisdom. But Chan Master says that's not true. All of that is inside. Okay? But if that is true, we would like that to be true, right? How do we take out the treasure? How do we discover the treasure? That's the question, right? So let's look at the next one. The fourth patriarch, Dao Xing, he has this famous poem, long poem called Trust in Mind. Trust in mind. And sometime in the future, Shifu will teach from that work as well. So there's a few verses from that poem. It says, circumstances are neither good nor bad. Good and bad arise from the mind. Which part of the mind? The conscious, the judging part of the mind, obviously. If the mind does not impose labels, from where do false thoughts arise? False thoughts means thoughts that are deluded, does not accord with reality. It's not the truth. We're seeing some delusions, all right? If the mind does not impose labels, from where do false thoughts arise? When false thoughts no longer arise, the true mind naturally knows all. The true mind naturally knows all. So to know everything is wisdom, right? That's wisdom. And here, Chan Master is saying, if we get away from our delusive thoughts, i.e. our ignorance, this is what Master Mazu was saying in the ordinary mind, right? If we stay away from these biased judgments and labels are useful, but a lot of times we're trapped by the names and the labels and the concepts that we have created and put on the events in our life. Yeah. So here contains the key to the Chan practice, the key to tapping into the depth of the treasure that is within ourselves. So this offers a very different way of living our life. Instead of learning this and learning that and studying this and read that book, which is to seek wisdom from outside, Chan Masters are saying, no, let us just tune in to a mind, to our own mind, that is freed from these labels, from these judgments, from these good and bad ideas. And let us see what happens. Let us see what happens. And what happens is that when false thoughts no longer arise, the true mind naturally knows all. So, do you believe in this teaching? Well, it's something that so many Chan masters or Zen masters have taught. That it must be true. But we had to see for ourselves, right? Okay, we're going to stop here with our stories today. Next week, we'll continue with this direct pointing to the mind with another teaching that is made famous by Mazu, that called "This Mind is the Buddha." Now, years ago, when Shifu was presiding over the Zen Center of Sunnyvale, there is a big rock outside of the Zen Center with a carving with 4 characters. That's Ji Xing Ji Fo. It means this mind is the Buddha. Okay, so that's something we'll look at next week. So it is time for us to break into group discussion. What are we going to discuss? Let us look at this. Wait. Okay. Give me a moment. All right. Discussion question about the ordinary mind. So, the ordinary mind is one of the most famous teachings. The plain, simple nature of true Zen practice nevertheless offer profound insights. Using Master Mazu's original Dharma talk quoted here, discuss what are the important qualities of the ordinary mind. What are the important qualities of the ordinary mind? So we have been studying about this, learning about this last week and this week too, right? So last week, get away from this judgment, good and bad, right? Worrying about birth and death, and these dualistic views. But also we learned about a person who never eats but never hungry. Remember that? And a person who always eats but never full. Now that person, what do you think when you think about it in terms of the 2 parts of the mind that I've been talking about? Who is who? The answer should be clear to you, right? All right, so what are the important qualities of this so-called ordinary mind? This ordinary mind as taught by Master Mazu. Yeah? What are some ways the ordinary mind practice can be can be or have been misused. Some people can misuse this teaching about ordinary mind. Yeah, I remember in the 60s and 70s when Zen was first became popular in America. A lot of hippies and the Beat Generation, and a lot of people, Zen became hip, but then a lot of people was misusing the Zen teaching. They used drugs and sex and all kinds of pursuing all kinds of desire, free love, and they call it Zen as well. They think that's part of the Zen way of life. So it could be misused. Yeah. So this is one, we discuss one of these two questions. Think about the ordinary mind. What are the important qualities of the true ordinary mind? Okay, let us now break into the group discussion. We'll have 25 minutes. In other words, at 8:30 Pacific time, we'll come back to the main hall. Okay, let us get started. Okay, good. We have everybody back. All right, I posted a few questions in the chat from the breakout room I visited. These are some of the questions they raised. But first, I would like to have, any group would like to share some of the key points that you guys discussed quickly, maybe 3 minutes or less, some of the important points in your discussion.
Our group actually had a question I think was important that we want to ask you. We were discussing from the stories what is the difference between ordinary mind and knowing mind, or is there a difference?
Okay, you can put that to the chat, and in the last part, Shifu will briefly address these questions. Is the ordinary mind equal to the knowing mind? That is the question, right? Okay, continue. Hello, hello, hello. Nobody want to summarize?
I can go for our group, or Hongyan, you can go, or anybody can go if you want to.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so the ordinary mind is aware of things. It may be aware of feelings. It may be aware of what's good or bad. It is just not attached to the judgments.
Mm-hmm.
It is that, pure state of mind, which is in a way elevated. I will be aware, the ordinary mind will be aware that a death has happened. It is really sad that a death has happened, but it is not attached to that feeling of being so sad. I have just become the CEO of a company. The ordinary mind knows that it is a good thing, but will it make me elated and I will be on the seventh heaven? No, I will be calm about it. I know it's good and I know that's bad. That was my understanding. I don't know, Hongyan, if you wanted to add anything to our group discussion.
Yes, that's a very good summary. And we also mentioned that ordinary mind cannot be misunderstood as a non-responsive mind or a passive mind. It is also very alert, and it is not a lack of action. So it is alert, it is aware, it responds to whatever circumstances that arises. That's the other part.
We have point where we kind of struggled a little bit. The idea is that you sleep or you rest when you're tired and eat when you're hungry. And then we all admit that during meditation, we may fall asleep. And now try not to close eyes and just stay. But it's like, how do we deal with that? If it feels like you're tired and want to sleep, but you don't want to sleep during
Well, if you're really tired when you meditate, then I would suggest just go to sleep. So when you're well rested, then you can continue with the meditation. But if it's a slight case of drowsiness, then you can make an effort. So Shifu has talked about this quite a bit, both in the awakening hours and also in the half-day meditation retreats, how to adjust, tame your mind, what to do when your mind is sinking, and what to do when your mind is overactive. Okay, so we do want to have those skills when we meditate to tune our mind to the right balance. I continue. No?
Hi, I'm Tofo. I'm Susan, and my group with Subhadra, with Yukchan, and Siuli, we all agree that the ordinary mind is non-judgmental. It has humility and non-discriminative, and fearless, always at ease, in so much so that it's always giving, so it's practically empty, so all you have is an awareness of everything, like, around. So that's different from the our conscious mind, because that mind, our conscious mind, is judgmental. Sometimes we do things out of habit and our conscious mind kicks in, and it's so subtle, sometimes it's so hard to even realize that we're judging without even like knowing, like, no it, but that's how it is. Like, we have to step back sometimes, and we have to think about what we're doing actually, because we're not using our ordinary mind, because ordinary mind is non-judgmental, and basically it's something that, to me, that if we fall back into the ordinary mind, it's a totally empty state of awareness. So we share several experiences, and we all, like, kind of agree with what we discuss with my group. Thank you, Amitofo.
Okay, that is interesting. That's good. Empty state of awareness. That is a good phrase. We can contemplate on that. Aware, but empty. Anybody else? Maybe the last couple minutes before Shifu address some of these questions.
There was another point in our group that ordinary mind is the mind that gets enlightened. There's not a separate or higher mind that we need to seek. It is this ordinary mind. If we get rid of the troubles or thoughts, then it is an enlightened mind.
So ordinary mind is the enlightened mind.
We hope.
Huh?
We think so, that otherwise
Okay.
you're sort of like trying to find the head over your head.
Right. Well, the key is you're not looking for something else, some
Right.
other enlightened mind, right?
Yes.
The ordinary mind is the enlightened mind that you try to achieve or try to realize. Okay. All right. Shifu visited some of the breakout rooms, and there are some questions I will briefly talk about. One question is, I put these questions in the chat box. One question is, is the knowing mind equal to the Buddha nature? So Shifu hasn't talked much about the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is not a term that we use to refer to sort of the true mind, the true mind, the truth, the true nature of our mind. So is the knowing mind equal to the Buddha nature? I would say, my Shifu's reply will be that the knowing mind is the key to understanding our Buddha nature. I wouldn't put the equal sign there, but it is a key. You have to, or let's not say you have to, but you really want to tune in and understand better the knowing mind, and then you will understand your Buddha nature much better. Okay? Does the ordinary mind try to do good karma? That is a good question. In next week's story, one of the story, which you can read ahead in our reading notes, there is a story where a master does talk about this. Does talk about when you're enlightened, do you continue to try to do good deeds or not? Or do you continue to cultivate the different bodhisattva skills or not? So you can read up on that. Does the ordinary mind try to do good karma? Well, we see that does the Buddha do good karma? Does the Zen masters or the other Buddhist masters or the bodhisattvas, do they do good karma? Right? So you will have the answer there. Okay? All right, does the ordinary mind have feelings? Is it dispassionate? Right? So one of the group already gave answer. They believe that the ordinary mind is aware of feelings but not attached to the feelings. So Shifu would say, think of the ordinary mind or the awakened mind or the true mind as someone that has a higher perspective, that look at all of this that's happening, including everybody have a lot of feelings in their life. They experience different feelings. To be unaware, to be numb to those feelings will be unreasonable, right? You'll be missing an important part of life. However, ordinary people who suffer, they become attached to those feelings. Now, I think it's safe to say that the ordinary mind does not get attached to those feelings, but it is aware. It definitely is aware of those feelings. Otherwise, how could you have empathy? How could you understand people and try to give them what they need, right? So the ordinary mind would understand these feelings. It will not be cut off from those feelings, put it this way, okay? But it does look at what is happening. People mention the Los Angeles fire and other disasters and that's going on in this world. People are suffering. The ordinary mind would look at all this happening from a higher perspective, a transcending perspective. And what would that be like? Try to imagine that yourself. What a good way to think about this is look at your own life in the past. So look at your high school life. Look at your life from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. All these things that are happening that you think, wow, that is so big and so important. Now you look back at it. You have a sort of a higher perspective, right? You have a higher perspective at your own past life. In the same way, what is happening right now with yourself and others in this world? Can you have a higher perspective right now? Okay?
So the ordinary mind is not controlled by emotion.
Oh, definitely not. It is the conscious mind that is controlled by the emotions, right? So that's what we want to get out of.
Hmm.
All right? But that doesn't mean it's cut off from our feelings and emotions. There is a story that we will probably look at in the future, and what part of that story is a Chan master was enlightened when his master, which is also Mazu, Mazu is just such a great master. He, one of his disciples, he actually twisted one of his disciples, Bai Zhang. He twisted Bai Zhang's nose so much that it hurt a great deal. So one day, for some reason, he's just twisting his nose, and that really hurt. So the disciple screamed and almost cried. But through that action, the disciple suddenly had a realization. Okay? And then so the disciple was hurt, but he was actually happy. And then other fellow disciples was confused about what's happening. So they asked the disciple what's going on. The disciple says, the master knows. You go ask the master. And the master, so the other disciple went to ask the master that wouldn't answer. He just said, Bai Zhang knows. He understood. And so the disciple went back to the nose-hurting disciple. He said, what do you know? Master says, you understand now. What do you know? And Bai Zhang, the disciple, he said, yesterday my nose was hurting, today it is not. That was his answer. Yesterday my nose was hurting, today it's not. Okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
How would an ordinary mind look at, let's say they came across a group of children crying? How would an ordinary mind react to that, or maybe doesn't react? So let's say he comes across a playground and there's a bunch of little children crying for some reason. The ordinary mind doesn't know why. How does the ordinary mind interpret that or react to that?
I think a good way to answer this type of question is to imagine a bodhisattva, an enlightened master, or the Buddha looking at a situation. What would they do? Right? Because they are acting from the ordinary mind, right? They already realized the ordinary mind. So what would they do? Remember there's the fundamental teaching called the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism. The Four Noble Truths is about how to understand suffering, understand the source of suffering, understand how to get rid of the source of the suffering, and thereby end suffering. That's a fundamental teaching of the Buddha. So the Buddha wants to end suffering for all people. But then it is not enough to feel sympathy or feel sad for when you see suffering. The more important thing is to understand the source of all our suffering. So imagine what an enlightened master would do when they see suffering. There are things that ordinary people can do. For example, give money, make donations, provide food and living places, and take them away from the bad guys. These things we can do, but that doesn't end the source of the suffering. Right? We can temporarily remove them from the circumstances, but then does it end the source of suffering? That is what we want to think about. Okay. Okay. Let's continue. Does the ordinary mind equal to the knowing mind? Well, again, the knowing mind is a key to understand the ordinary mind or the enlightened mind. But I wouldn't say that is all of it. But this is the part that we ignored. Knowing mind is the part that we ignored for our life. Okay, if ordinary mind.
Can I ask one question? So knowing mind, if I say knowing mind also has wisdom, because not knowing mind, I mean ordinary mind has wisdom, but knowing mind is just knowing and aware. If I say that statement, is that correct?
Okay, when we talk about wisdom, there's a form of wisdom that we are familiar with. That is, you study, you gain knowledge, you gain experience, and then you can make good judgments, right? That is a form of wisdom. So that is from the conscious mind, right? So everybody have acquired some knowledge and expertise, and things like that. So that's the conscious mind, and you are already somewhat familiar with that type of wisdom. But here I want to talk about a different kind of wisdom, a wisdom from simply knowing. That is the type of wisdom that is we want to contemplate on. We want to have an experience of. In the stories that we read today, the Chan Master says that if you simply remove the defilements, then the mind is all knowing. So there's definitely a different form of wisdom there. Let me give you an example that Shifu gave before. Is the earth flat or is it round? Well, it is round, right? How do you know the earth is round? Before you have, a space shuttle, you can go up into the outer space. When we're living on Earth, and Earth is so big, how can we know that Earth is round? Well, you can do some calculation, you can do some geometry. You can do some geometry and calculate, oh, the Earth must be round, it is not flat, right? So that requires the conscious mind, knowledge, intelligence. But then there's another way to know that the Earth is round is when you are very far away, you're in outer space, you take one look at Earth and you know the Earth is round. You don't need any geometry, you don't need any calculation, right? So when you see clearly, simply see clearly, then that is a form of wisdom. And that form of wisdom is very, very, very powerful and pervasive. That is the part we are not familiar with. That is the part we can tap into from the knowing mind. Okay? All right, here's another question in the chat. If ordinary mind is so awakened and so brilliant, why is it called ordinary? Well, it is called ordinary because that's the way it should be. That is the way it should be every day, at all times. That should be the norm. And for the enlightened master, that is the norm. Okay? It's not something so special that only very few people can attain. It is ordinary because everybody can do it. All right? All right. can we think of the ordinary mind as this? How will we look down at us in those moments when we die, and then look down on everything? Will be so judgmental then? Yes, a way to look at it is to, look at our own life right now. Look at our own life and our own world right now from a higher point. Okay, so don't get trapped in our personal, individual perspective.
Shifu, I feel overwhelmed.
You feel what?
I feel overwhelmed.
All right, let's do some meditation. Will help. Time is up. Definitely, it is not something we can immediately understand. Everything, but that is important. We have an opening for which we can start to think about when we have time. All right, but I do want to talk about exercise. Let's look at some of the exercises. We didn't do this last time, right? Practice maintaining an ordinary mind in the following situations. We didn't do that last week, did we?
No,
right,
we did not.
So here are some suggestions. These are only suggestions, but I encourage you to follow. Meditate for 10 minutes, practicing hope. I'm not sharing screen, am I? Let me share screen. Oh, I cannot find the share screen thing. Oh, here. Okay. Meditate for 10 minutes, practicing whole body awareness. Try to maintain continuous mindful thought throughout the 10 minutes. So the key is, even though it's only 10 minutes, maintain the mindfulness throughout the 10 minutes. That's the hard part. That's the key, being aware. So that's in meditation. And also during a conversation, refrain from making the usual judgments. Instead, listen carefully to what the other person is saying. We already started practice this last week, right? Mindful listening. Sincerely try to understand the whole situation. So we continue with that. Continue the previous exercise 1, maintain the knowing or pure awareness in a daily action. So we are continuing with the first week and the second week practice. All of that actually is part of the training for the ordinary mind. Okay? All right. Let us then conclude today's class.
Another question in chat box.
Okay. The ordinary mind doesn't think about birth and death. Doesn't mean they don't worry about birth and death. That's one way to look at it. It doesn't worry about birth and death. However, it doesn't mean that birth and death is not important. This is a big topic. To understand, the enlightened mind will understand the nature of death, the nature of birth and death, and that's something we haven't talked about. When you understand the nature of birth and death, you don't worry about it. What you should be concerned is karma. Okay? So that's not something we're ready to talk about, in the last minute. Okay, so let us conclude with the dedication. Let us put our palms together. And we take a few quiet moments to make your own dedication of merits. May the merits of our studying Zen Masters and how to achieve enlightenment together, May the merits be dedicated to all the participants and your friends and family, so that the bad karma will be eradicated. We'll make progress in our spiritual enlightenment, and we dedicate the merits to help with the disasters in the world, and may they end quickly. And we dedicate the merits to peace and harmony for all sentient beings. Okay, let us meet again next week at the same time.
Let us put our palms together and thank Jianhu Shifu for the lecture.
Amitabha.
Amitabha.
Shifu.
Thank you, Shifu.
Amitabha.
Thank you, Shifu.